Bruce. I've certainly been bigged up in a big way. I hope I can live up to this. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a talk on pre-purchase eye examination. And it's fairly dry, as most pre-purchase examinations are just simply a very thorough clinical examination. But I thought I'd throw in a little bit about ocular ultrasound, which is something that many of us don't do, but it can help us to evaluate some of the things that we're seeing in eyes, and also some of the tricky eyes that you see outside of pre-purchase examination as well. As we go through tonight, I'll show you some examples of things that I've seen throughout the last year, and give you some tips on how to get more information on these problems if you need them. So really the pre-purchase examination, you've got to think about why you're there. What are you doing? Now, you're there to act on behalf of the purchaser to help them make a decision. So your main job is to identify any observable ocular abnormalities, and then you're supposed to give a judgment on the potential importance of these abnormalities with respect to the intended use of the purchaser. And sometimes this judgment can be really difficult, and it's something that takes years and years of experience to say, well, yeah, that one was important, and that one wasn't important. And sometimes that experience comes with a bit of a sour taste if you happen to get the judgment wrong. But we're only human, and we all do make mistakes. One of the things that I find very useful, and I encourage my younger vets in the practice to do, is to ask somebody else. A pre-purchase examination is not about making a split-second decision. There is time to think about it, so do use that time. Anytime I see an eye that has impaired vision, and we'll talk about how badly damaged a horse's eye has to be to impair the vision later, but if I see that it's got impaired vision, or I think that the eye is painful, then it's always important, and immediately I reject that horse because there is something radically wrong there. In a pre-purchase examination, you're generally looking for subtle lesions in a normal eye. Sometimes they're not so subtle, but generally they are quite subtle. And as with any pre-purchase examination, you have to have a routine and you have to stick to it. Make sure you're not missing things, cutting corners. And one of the most important things is to remember that the temperament is important. An uncooperative animal is impossible to evaluate with respect to the eye. Now, I take that in with the rest of the pre-purchase examination and say, if the horse is that uncooperative, then really is it a good buy for the purchaser? And the answer is generally no. So, ophthalmological abnormalities that we're looking for generally fall into three categories. And the first category is the safest, and that's the ones that don't affect vision and are not progressive. So the little abnormalities like colobomas, iris cysts, Y-shaped suture lines in the lens. Those we know are very safe and they're suitable for purchase. But they still need to be noted down as part of your examination, because somebody comes along 3 months later and sees that, then the purchaser is going to be asking questions. The second group is the progressive or recurrent problems. Now, they're not affecting vision at the moment, but they may do with time. And particularly this includes things like early cataracts, small cataracts, equine recurrent uveitis, particularly in the early stages, maybe small squamous cell carcinomas or glaucoma. Now, are they going to affect vision? Well, they may well do, particularly if they're left untreated. And then the third group is the ones that are affecting vision now, so cloudiness of the cornea, severe cataracts. Now, some of those can be treated, and if they can be treated, then it may be that the horse will be suitable for purchase in the future. But I always recommend that the eye be treated prior to purchase. I don't recommend people buy a problem eye and then say, okay, well, we'll treat that, because the chance that you're going to get it 100% right is not 100%. So you don't want to be buying trouble for people. So the pre-purchase exam itself has two distinct stages. We've got the daylight phase and we've got a darkness phase. So we start off in the daylight and we're looking at the horse's ability to navigate obstacles. Does it trip over buckets? Does it trip over steps? Does it walk into doors? And believe me, every now and again you do come across a horse that they don't realize is blind. They just think that it's a little bit skittish. Globe size is another one. So compare one side or one eye to the other. So you're looking for things like microcornea, endophthalmia, exophthalmia, things like that. And the angle of the eyelashes and ocular discharge. Certainly if it's got a very gunky eye and or you've got downward pointing upper eyelashes, then that's a painful eye. The eye is being drawn back into the socket, the eye is closing a little, and if it's not equal with the other side, that's a painful eye. And again, that rings alarm bells for me and raises all sorts of questions, and I would be as likely to fail that just based on that, but generally ask a lot of questions first. You want to be giving them the benefit of the doubt. And then you've got the darkness phase, and here again you're looking at the ability to navigate, but this time in dim light. Now horses have extremely good night vision, and so if they start to knock into things or become anxious when the lights go out, there's a problem. Night blindness is one of the things that we see, particularly in association with recurrent uveitis. In the dark, you'll also be looking for your pupillary light response and dazzle responses and seeing whether or not they're appropriate for what you're doing. And the rest of the ophthalmic examination, and you're looking at the horse in the dark because that increases the pupil size without having to use mydriatic aids. And also you're looking to reduce reflections from external light sources. So when we're looking at the schematic of the eye, it's really most of the eye is just for conducting light from the external part of the world through the cornea, anterior chamber, lens, and vitreous. And that's just to bring the light through in a focused way so that it focuses on the retina at the back. So most of the eye should be very clear and is the light path, and then you've got the light sensing portion, which is the very last bit in the fundus. And so we see a lot of difference there. Now what we want to see in a nice eye is clear, regular structures, and it should be tidy. We don't want cloudiness, we don't want haziness, torn edges, or precipitates in any of the fluids. All of those things tell us that things aren't healthy and that there's probably a chance that we're going to have future problems. So the ophthalmic examination itself, it's not, when you're looking at a pre-purchase examination, a specialist consultation. So you don't have to be an ophthalmic genius. All you have to do is do a reasonable examination using reasonable tools that you'd be expected to have in your car. So a dark room or stable is essential. You can't do this out in the field. You need a very bright light. You need an ophthalmoscope. You may also want some of the other things here, magnifying glasses, a mydriatic, a camera phone, and ultrasound. We'll see how those sorts of things fit in as we go on. So your bright light, okay, pupillary light response and dazzle response. Now by bright light, I'm talking about a light that hurts when you look into it. You really, really want it to be bright, 75 lumens or more. And they don't have to be expensive. The one that I use is £15 head torch, but very, very bright light. And you want to be looking for the dazzle, smoothness of the corneal surface, clarity of the cornea, clarity of the anterior chamber, and the appearance of the iris. And if you've got tired old eyes like I have, then